This is the Independent Dealer Podcast. Education by dealers for dealers. Now, here are your hosts, Luke Godwin and Jeff Watson.
Hello and welcome to the Independent Dealer Podcast, brought to you this week and most every week by Buckeye Dealership Consulting. This is a new situation. We've got like a really old guest of the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see a beautiful face. Mr. Brent Carmichael has joined us. We got Luke in a car, so I don't know if we aren't going to hear him.
Well, this is the thing. Years ago, back before COVID, when we were very new to doing podcasts, Jeff, I would be in my car a lot of times because I'd be out on the road buying cars. And so this is like a throwback episode. Throwback, having Brett on, and then me in a car.
Yeah. This is exciting.
Exciting.
Speaking of throwing back, we're going to throw back to a better time. Brent's going to talk to us about the 20 group program, the NIAD 20 group program. For those of you that don't know, it has been announced. Brent is the new SAR. What do we call you? The 20 group, I don't know, the dictator, the
director of education is what Jeff told me my title will be. So
I love that. We need some education. We need
someone to direct it in the right route. So Brent, give us just a quick backstory for those that don't know you or don't know what you've been up to. Talk to us about that and maybe a little bit of your mindset around this change, this switch you're making, and then we'll talk more about like what the future is going to look like for the program.
Okay. First and foremost, guys, great to be on the program again. Thank you so much. Loyal fan. Listen to you guys all the time. And again, greatly appreciate the opportunity. Hurt my feelings a little bit when you introduced as the old face on here, an old face on that. I try to, I moisturize. I try to stay young, but obviously it's not working. But I've been with NCM now for 18 years as a moderator, trainer, consultant. Prior to that, was a buy here, pay here dealer, Northwest Arkansas for about 12 years. 10 locations at our peak. We're pretty high volume, 800,000 units a month. So been in the deep subprime sales and collections since, 1989. So only thing I've ever done really is this customer base. So as far as the change, the whole reason for the change, well, actually two reasons. One of them being Jeff Martin, to be quite honest with you. I've had a long relationship with Jeff when he was at TIADA. I did a lot of seminars, a lot of training with them throughout the years. I've always held Jeff in high regard. So when he got the opportunity to take over for TIADA, I thought it was a great step in the right direction for the association. The other reason is NCM, the independent use is a very, very small portion of NCM's overall business model. I've got, I think, a few years left, not a great deal of years left to work, and wanted to take those last years to have some sort of more of an effect or an impact on the independent use space, because it's pretty much provided me everything that I have at this point and who I am. And so just wanted the opportunity to have resources, have felt that there has been a need in the independent space overall for better training and education programs. And like I said, when Jeff called and said, "Hey, what do you think about coming to work with us?" I said, I'm happy being a moderator at NCM. I appreciate the call. Everything's good. And he said, "I want you to be a moderator. I want you to come and be our director of education. I want you to run our 20 group programs. I want you to run our boot camps. I want you to run our consulting business as well. We want you to take on all of that." And it was something that again, wasn't looking, had been very happy with NCM, and but had to stop and think about that opportunity. And again, the opportunity to work not only with Jeff, but everybody at NIADA, and know a lot of the dealer clients that are currently there. So, I mean, there's a lot of positives to the opportunity to be able to do that. So
yeah, it's really super cool, Brent, to have someone who's so involved in the industry and has been in it for so long to now be over something like education in so many different aspects, right? Because you understand what dealers want to get out of 20 groups. You understand what they want out of consulting, out of the certified CMD program. Are you going to be doing the education around our conventions, or does that fall outside your scope?
Nope, that'll be part of mine as well. So I guess I'll be either to blame for how bad it goes. And to be quite honest, I mean, there's been some great programs there and not too much to improve on there. I think our biggest opportunities are going to be stuff like the boot camps. I think we got some big opportunities on the 20 group side as well. And I think we have some big opportunities on the consulting side. Again, nothing, in my opinion, is broke that needs to be fixed. I think it's just that I'm really try not to be a cliche guy, but that next level. It seems like it's kind of always been on this edge of, what is the one of my favorite books, Good to Great. That to me, that's going to be my challenge. Let's take it from good, but what do we got to do to make it great at this point? And I just see that there's a huge opportunity within the association to do that, not only at the entire association level, but one of the things that Jeff and I have talked about is me being hands-on with the state dealer associations to help them with their education programs as well. So we can develop them at not only the national level, but at the state level as well, because I've had the pleasure and honor to speak at pretty much every independent auto dealer association at one point or another over the last 18 years. And there's some out there that do it just a little bit better than some of the other ones. And we'd like to be able to bring all of them up at one point. So it's kind of a holistic. It's national, but we also want to work at the state level as well.
So what I was saying, Brett, was I appreciate that because I'm over our Utah convention and the education side of it. So it getting support from the national on what kind of format, what other guys are doing, how to best get attendance and turnout to those things. It's kind of like we've just been kind of inventing the wheel on our own, right? Because we don't know really who to reach out to at national to give us support on the education standpoint. So we've been kind of doing it all on our own, but I do know there are states out there who do it really, really well. And they're always willing to share. It's just, you kind of don't want to bug every different state for their secret sauce or what works and what doesn't, because it is kind of specific to state as far as how do you get activity, how do you get involvement, how do you get these dealers out? Really, really hard to do sometimes.
Yes.
Well, Jeff Martin did it best, has done it so well at TIADA, and him bringing you in, I think, is just another testament to what a great leader he is, and he does have that ability to make phone calls and get people to participate, right, Brent?
Yeah. So I said there's probably not even a handful of people on the planet that I would have ever considered leaving NCM for, and Jeff's just one of them. I mean, I've just had a relationship with him for probably a dozen years. Top shelf kind of guy. Has always been a friend of the program with NCM in the past and me. And like I said, just the opportunity to work. I've seen his management style and we're very similar. And so, like I said, that was kind of the icing on the cake, I guess, to a certain extent. The opportunity was there, but then to be able to do it with Jeff and the opportunity to grow the association, again, pass it up.
Let me ask you, Brent, what can dealers look forward to? Let's get into some of the specific nuts and bolts, maybe your wish list, so that dealers listening can say, yes, this is what I was waiting for to do in our 20 group or our consulting or the education paths. This I can get behind. Sign me up. Where do I get on board? What do you see would take the association education from good to great?
Well, let me kind of put on my dealer hat, I guess, to a certain extent. And that some of the bigger issues that I think that we've been facing, some of them are just the basics, lack of communication, to a certain extent, and it's going to sound kind of flippant, but customer service. I get a lot of, takes too long to return a phone call. We're not going to come in and make what I would consider wholesale changes year one or year two, because to be honest with you guys, I kind of got to get my hands around everything. I got a good idea because I've got a lot of dealers that have been in NIADA 20 groups and are in NCM groups. So I kind of understand part of it. My biggest thing is I'm going to turn to you guys. I'm going to turn to the Jeff Watsons and the Lukes and just say, guys, tell me, what is it that we need to do better? And understand that you have my commitment that within my powers or within the association's powers, we're going to do our best to provide that. I mean, I have an idea because I'm working with a company now that's been doing 20 groups since 1947.
Wow.
So they kind of, NCM's been around a long time. Again, their focus is franchise. It is new car side, but the 20 group program in and of itself, they kind of wrote the book on it. And a little history, Chris Leadham actually worked for NCM, was a moderator at NCM and wanted to go down the independent used car path with 20 groups. And our CEO at that time didn't see a future in it. And so they let Chris out of his non-compete to go start Leadem at that point. So there's a lot of synergy in kind of what we do. The basic thing is the same. There's a composite, there's a prorate, there's a meeting, there's an agenda. Those things are all pretty set. What I want to make sure of is that at that meeting that we have quality moderators that add value to the meeting, but also understand that we serve at the pleasure of the group, not the other way around. That was kind of the biggest thing that I learned early on in my moderating career is we serve at the pleasure of the group. The group does not serve at the pleasure of us. And so we have to make sure that we're listening to the dealer body and making whatever adjustments that need to be made, but also making sure that the dealer body understands that we can't be everything to everybody, right? And I'll just use a composite as an example. I mean, if I polled all of the 20 group members, I would get probably 50 different versions of what they think should be in the composite.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you logistically, you can't do that. I mean, you can't have 50 different versions. It just doesn't work that way. So, one of the things I'm going to do, and I don't know if we're going to call it a dealer council or something, but I'm going to get with, gosh, sound like I'm running for office here, for God's sakes, Jeff. I can't believe you go down this path. What I want to do is get with guys like you that have been around a long time, that I know understand metrics and how to get the data, and go, look, guys, let's create a composite that we are comfortable with. You had one, you've got a new one that's kind of being developed. There may not be any changes to it whatsoever. But the NCM clients, and I failed to mention this earlier, all of my current buy here, pay here groups are coming with us to NIADA. So we'll be getting an influx of those. Good thing and a bad thing. We've got these dealers, these groups full of dealers that have been in a composite that's completely different from what you can see. And of course, they're going to come over and want something different. So, that's one of the first things that I want to do, because to me, you guys have known me long enough. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a data guy. And so the one thing that I'm going to make sure is that when the data is reported, that it's accurate, which I know you're kind of laughing at that. But one thing that I'm going to challenge not only myself or the groups that I do, but the moderators that we have, is that every month they're reviewing these composites for errors and making sure that we get those composite errors corrected to the best of our ability before they go final and get printed and shipped out. I know you guys hate this. You get the meeting room and somebody says number, and they go,
the worst.
That's not right. And then you just kind of go, okay, well, it messes up group average. It throws off everything there. And like I said, guys, I was a member of 2 different 20 groups back in the day. And you can't fix all of them, but part of that is just taking that little extra. I mean, just as an example, today, all I've been doing all day today, outside of a couple of phone calls, is reviewing all the composites for my buy here, pay here groups, because they go final tomorrow. Yeah. And so if there's an error in there, I send an email out to Jeff Watson saying, hey, Jeff, take a look at this number. It doesn't look right. I need you to fix it. Those are the kind of things that I've had feedback from before. And again, I've had a lot of dealers reach out to me over the last 3 months since the announcement was made. And I'm humbled by the amount of support that they've given and reached out. But, these are the things I'm hearing from them. Brent, if you can fix something, let's start with data integrity. Let's start with consistent data. So when I come to Jeff's group, I can say, hey, look, here's what the other groups are doing. And it is an apples to apples thing. It was, well, yeah, but they don't report it this way, or this doesn't happen that way. And I think that's a big challenge that the industry as a whole has had, even with an NCM and an NIADA, because again, our composite's completely different. So it's a gross that's calculated this way. So, those are the biggest things. It's support of the dealer body, which is simply returning a phone call, email, or text message. Being available, and the data integrity are probably going to be the top 3 that we tackle right away, because I think there seems to be a little bit of, I don't want to say distrust, because I think that's too big of a word or too strong of a word, but that's, I want to fix that.
Hey, you guys, real quick, just to jump in and make sure you know about Buckeye Dealership Consulting. It's so funny to me, Luke. We still have people in the Facebook group that will say, hey, guys, I've heard about this reinsurance thing. What's it all about? Who do I talk to? And my head explodes. And I'm like, what is going on? A, I guess no one's listening to us. Or B, maybe we're not explaining it well enough so people understand the power of the reinsurance company.
I tell you, it was funny the other day when that happened, and you were like, I feel like I haven't done my job if you're still asking this question.
Yeah. No, we've failed. We've failed the dealer community. They don't know who to reach out to. Buckeye Dealership Consulting. Get your reinsurance set up. Do it now so you can start 2025 fresh. Clock's ticking. You can easily get your reinsurance company set up in the next 3 months and then just hit the ground running at the first of the year. So call the guys at Buckeye.
So I mean that 20 groups and everybody listening to this show knows that Jeff and I believe that 20 groups have probably been the single most important thing in development of our business. Wouldn't you say so, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel over the past couple of years with 20 Group that the data has gotten worse and worse. And the approval of the data has gotten worse and worse. So I think that's a perfect place to start. Everybody can look at their composite and tell if the number's right? Yeah. But nobody ever does. Everybody's just rushing to get the information in there, and there's no checks and balances currently.
And like I said, there's technology out there that we've got to simplify that. I mean, one of the things that I've hated about my time at NCM is that we could never get, as an example, the new car guys, their financial statement dumps right into a reporting form. They don't have to hand enter anything.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, the softwares, the DMSs on the buy here, pay here side have not necessarily always been up to 21st century standards. So there's been a little bit of a challenge there, but that's not the case anymore. And so if we can work that out to where all you have to do is hit a button and it populates 50 or 60% of your reporting form straight out of the DMS. So we take the human factor out of it, and then it's maybe the expenses that have to be entered. Those are the kind of things that we want to make sure that we get done right away to make it easier for the dealers. Because
is there any way for QuickBooks to talk directly to the composite?
Yes, there is, but the long answer to that, Luke, is we need everybody to be on the same chart of accounts, which is never going to happen.
Sure.
Okay. And that's where it's different from the franchise world, right? Everybody that's on Chevy is the same Chevy financial statement. Kia is the same financial statement. And in Buy Here, Pay Here, Ken Shilson years ago tried to, not force, but tried to implement a standardized chart of accounts for the Buy Here, Pay Here space. Has one.
Yep.
Some adopted it, some didn't. So, I mean, the technology's there, yes. The ability for some there is a little bit different. So,
and I create my own stuff every month when I get in and code things in. So it's absolute nonsense. You touched on a lot of things, though, Brent, that I want to kind of reiterate. The communication side of it. We have heard from multiple dealers, hey, I tried to get in a 20 group, made phone calls, and I never heard anything back, right?
Not going to happen.
I'm like,
not gonna happen.
How is that even possible? Like, you're telling me you want to show up to a group and you cannot get someone to tell you where and when the next group that would fit you is at? Like, I don't believe that. So maybe that was going on. Maybe it wasn't. Obviously, Luke and I have a real rub around the transparency of pro rates. Like that issue, is probably something that we would love to see tackled. And just being a little more transparent in what is going into this lump sum dollar that our cards are getting hit for at the end of a meeting. And then what's really interesting, though, I gave this same advice to Jeff Martin when he took over. And what's so hard, I think, is you guys dealing in an association it's like indecision by 1,000 conventions. Like, we have to consult with everyone. And it's like, okay, now we need these people with their input. And I need to talk to the Buy Here, Pay Here's. And I need to talk to the small guys and the big guys and little guys and and it's like nothing ever happened in these groups. We always had ideas for well, we need a quick start group, and we need a digital group, and we need to do this at convention, and maybe we could launch this thing. And it's like, some of those are really good ideas. They'll never come to fruition because you can't get a consensus, whether it's from the board or a bunch of dealers. So I don't know if you have that ability to, it's like, hey, I took everyone's advice and now we're acting on something, right? We're just going to launch it, and it might not be perfect, and half the people might hate it, but half of them are going to love it, and we're going to move forward.
Well, and again, just my understanding is I have the full support of Jeff, obviously, as the CEO, and I'm very fortunate that I know a majority of the board already. So I think that's going to make it easier. Now, I didn't go into this with blinders on, thinking obviously I'm going to have 100% autonomy, because again, it is an association, so there are checks and balances there. But there are things that you've mentioned Jeff, that we will be correcting. I promise you. And Luke mentioned it earlier. He said something about, you did 6, 8, or 9 months before we get to a meeting. That's not my experience. If I talk to you today, I can get you to a meeting in October. As long as I can get your data, if you can get me your data in a timely manner, I can get you to the next meeting if it's in your calendar. And that's going to be my understanding as we move forward. The next available meeting, if you're available, we will get you there. Again, as long as, and again, a little bit of a caveat to that. I mean, I have some dealers that just don't provide the data, but so that'll be the case. And we're going to be old school, guys. It's going to be, you're going to get a response within 24 hours. And if I can't create a staff that has that kind of respect for the dealer client, then we'll find those that will at that point.
Brett, you've been doing this long enough to know how to do this, but how do you get those dealers who have never been to a 20 group? How do they turn their data in? I mean, how do you fix that problem? Because that's a big rub for
I've seen Excel spreadsheets. We have within CM currently, they have to hand enter all their data. There's a reporting form. It's basically, I can do it in a PDF or a Word document. We send that to the dealer. We say, fill this out. A little bit different for us at NCM. It's a year-to-date data, so it's a little bit easier. NIADA is current month. So if we're 6 months into it, you got to have 6 months worth of data. So there'll be some challenges there, but I get that. And then the other thing that we will do moving forward is we'll get a recent copy of the dealer's financial statement to make sure we help them map where these things need to be reported. What I currently do as NCM is you'll send me your financial statement. I'll mark it up with the reporting form line numbers where all the expenses go and send it back to you. And then you have a template. So now moving forward, this expense goes in 003. This one goes here. So you already have the template.
Wow, that's such a novel idea that has never been done in our groups.
Well, and like I said, guys, it takes, because again, you mentioned I've been doing it for 18 years. I've seen just about every different format of financial statement I think you can probably look at this point. And so it takes me about 10 minutes to go through an entire financial statement and mark it up. And again, these are just some of the things that I feel should have been provided. I thought they were just day-to-day stuff. Hearing you say that that's never been done, and I know you've been in 20 groups for many years now, that stuff like that has never been done, concerns me to a certain extent, but it doesn't. It kind of gives me hope that we've got some value that we can definitely build. One thing that we'll do every year is, and I do it currently in December, is we're going to have reporting webinars or Zoom meetings. Well, it used to be webinars. Now there's Zoom meetings where we currently do them as an individual group. So your group will have a date and time. You come on the Zoom, we go through the reporting, we go through the composite if you have any questions, and we do it every single year, getting ready for the next year. So everybody's on the same page. And these things take a half an hour, 45 minutes, but they're just little things, because when you said czar, yes, I'm going to be the czar, if nothing else, of data integrity for NIADA.
Oh, I love it.
The first thing you should do, Brent, the first hire should be a mobile auditor. And at every 20 group, you get to throw the red flag at one of our members and say, you're getting visited by the mobile auditor before our next meeting. And this person goes and sits down in their dealership for like a day or two and just just fixes all the lies that are in the composite. Like, I know that's not your cost per car. I know that's not your overhead. Like, just tell it to me straight.
Jeff, exactly. you would have to take my red flag away, because I would throw it so much at people.
Well, but again, guys, I mean, we're kind of making light of it, but that is one thing that I think has kind of held back our industry to a certain extent is you're right. I mean, we go to these conferences and Luke will get up there and he'll say, my charge off is 1%. And you go, well, 1% of what? I mean, what is that? 1% of portfolio on a monthly basis? Is that 1% of account? I mean, what is that number? Yeah. And we need to get a better handle on, can't be standardized because everybody does things a little bit differently, but more standardization. And so that apples are apples and not apples against oranges. And, it's one of those, there is a slippery slope in that meeting room. You guys know this about calling members out on bad data to a certain extent. But yeah, that's one of the things. It's probably the main thing I've heard from NIADA dealers is data integrity.
Luke's running our meeting. We have a 20 group meeting in DC next week. So Luke will be running day number 1, which is all going to be, composite thing. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be calling everyone out and making them cry and hate each other. And then I fly in the second day. Luke and I we pass each other in the airport because we can't be in the same room at the same time or we just fight like cats and dogs. And so I come in the second day, and then my job is to be the Dr. Phil and try to put our group back together on day number 2 once Luke's just made us all hate
policy
each other.
conference.
So.
I really wish I could be involved in that this year. We were trying to work it out. But actually my finance 20 group meeting starts tomorrow evening. They got their informal thing, but I'll be at that through Tuesday. So wasn't able to be a part of that. But
Yeah.
look forward to being a part of that next year. I've always wanted to be it, and for some reason I always have a 20 group meeting about this time.
Yeah.
So don't have to worry about that next year though.
Hey, Jeff, the biggest thing about buy here, pay here is collecting the money, right?
Absolutely.
The best way to do that is give Blytzpay a call. Super easy, and it helps your collectors, it helps you, and it helps the customer.
Yeah. You know, it's really cool. Right before we got on this recording, I got an email from the folks at Blytzpay that said, hey, we've got the cash network figured out for your area with the convenience fee. We're going to send you guys live here in the next 24 hours. Let's test it with a couple accounts. And so I'm ecstatic. I'm so stoked. I got on the little map. There's about 20 different places within my lending radius, my small town, where customers can go and make a cash payment at like a Walgreens and a Family Dollar and a Dollar General and Walmart. I don't need to take cash in my office anymore. And I'm really excited to transition over to that.
Yeah, it's been very helpful with us. I think they have it all figured out. Little bumps along the road. Maybe I was a guinea pig, but it's super helpful. And I think it'll serve you well, Jeff.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Back to the podcast. And it sounds like we will also miss you at the Buy Here, Pay Here dealer forum in November down in New Orleans. So
yeah, unfortunately, I was trying to transition one of my non-independent groups. It didn't work as effectively. I do a Kia group. I do 2 Harley Davidson groups. I do a motor coach group. So I do a little more than just independent.
Yeah.
The motor coach group is the one that meets. We were trying to get that transition to another moderator. It didn't work necessarily the way we wanted it to. So I'm going to have to do that meeting now. But yeah, from everything I've seen as far as the planning, looks like it's going to be a strong forum. It looks like, and I'm excited about that one since you mentioned that, because that used to be just kind of this collections conference thing, back when NABD was in the May and November,
right.
And it really wasn't there. To me, there wasn't any teeth in it to a certain extent. But from the conversations that I've had, and Jeff Martin has been, seeking kind of who would I think and those kind of things, a little bit of the planning side of it. I'm kind of excited for what the agenda and what the sessions are going to look like.
Yeah, it'll be a much more tactical, hands-on, one-on-one. Yep. I like the dealer roundtables. I like some of the small, intimate groups. So, of course, guys, if you haven't signed up already, get signed up now. It takes place in New Orleans this year. Not my choice of city, but whatever. November 10th, 11th, and 12th. And Brent won't be there to sign up, but there will be people from the association there. Of course, Luke and I will be there. Come talk to us. We can give you more info on what 20 groups are coming up, which ones you would fit in with, as far as size, scope, business model. So it's a great time to just get more info, pick other dealers' brains that have been in a 20 group and done it, and just kind of get geared up to start 2025 outright, right? We'll have Brent at the helm of the boat, and the rest of us will be in the back rowing, and we're gonna get somewhere good, huh?
Yes, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to say there's nowhere to go but up. It's that good to great. I mean, I think it's good now. There's a lot of positives. 20 groups. I've been a believer of them forever, even if I wasn't with the association, and just think that we can, with the help of obviously what you guys are doing for the industry. But like I said, the reach, the support that I've received just in the last 3 months tells me that this was definitely the right time and the right decision for me to come on board with the association and just help, take that next step.
Nice.
I agree. We're glad to have you.
Brent, thanks so much. Appreciate your time, and we look catching up with you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Always good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Cool.
Sorry, my earbuds went out at some point.
Now you're good. One thing again, guys, just so you know, there will be way more transparency with the pro rates. So, currently with us, there's a e-cabinet. Our groups all have their own website, so they can go out there, and that's where composites are and some trending tools and stuff like that. But there's also an e-cabinet out there where we put all of the stuff from the meeting goes in there, but pro rates go in there. So, that's something that we're going to do is make available one way or another the actual pro rate so you can see the breakdown of what everything is. And like I said, NIADA's program was Leadham's program, which was NCM's program. So, at one time NCM, you just get a bill that said meeting pro rate, $1,800.
Yeah.
And that's not the case anymore. Now you get one that says meeting expenses X, group dinner was X. If there's guest speaker was X. And so here's the total of that, which we didn't do for the longest time either. So, but those are little things, obviously, that we can work on in the background. But rebuilding the confidence, I guess, was probably a better. Rebuilding the confidence of the dealer base is going to be that, and the data is going to be priorities 1 and 2. I know you guys got to be looking at this going, this guy's hired, we lose 2 moderators, don't even have a moderator at this point. I mean, this has got to be a poop show of epic proportions, but we're talking to some good people. I think we'll have some good talent coming in, and like I said, it probably couldn't have worked out better for me. I've known David for many years. I've known Ben for quite a while. It'll give me, and this is going to sound selfish, but it's going to give me the opportunity to train the moderators in a different way, where it's not going to be, changing something. You guys know this. Do you ever hire a seasoned salesperson from another dealership? No, you'd rather hire somebody with no experience and train them up, as opposed to try to break bad habits that somebody else has. Not saying that Ben or David would have had bad habits, but well, I was going to say there. I knew that going into that challenge, that there was going to be that challenge there at that point. But I'm probably more excited now, getting to kind of start with a clean slate than I probably was 3 months ago.
So. We fired our whole detail department about 2 weeks ago, and started with one new person who's going to be the manager and build our detail department back the way it should be, because it was in such a mess. So I think you're hit this dead on the head here.
Yeah, it's going to be an adjustment. We're going to need some patience. I know Jeff and I, once we settle on the new moderator, we're going to be reaching out to Jeff's going to set up about a dealer council, whatever, so we can kind of start disseminating the messages out there. So I know that's coming up sometime in the real near future. But again, guys, I can't thank you enough for you guys helping out in the interim. It means a great deal to me. So.
Yeah, we do really appreciate you coming on here and coming to NIADA. I've always been passionate about the association, and I know Jeff is as well. And there's so much potential for the 20 group program and the education that so many dealers just aren't getting the ability to use it. So I think a bright future.
Thank you for listening. Please leave us a review. We'll catch you in the next episode.